Hey everybody, Karen here, the Unpinned Creative at Unpinned Creative. I have been working on a Beatrix Potter Journal for probably 6 weeks or longer now, and I'm still working only on the first signature, but I'm getting there. And if you've been following the shorts I've been posting recently, I have been working on these pages here. I figured I'd take you along for the ride because it takes me so long to get journals finished these days that I may as well just record and post shorts and stuff. So those 3 pages that you just saw are the ones I have already completed, and you can see a sped up version of the make process of that on my shorts. And now I'm working on the last page in this group of 4 pages. So I am first doing a little stencil of rabbit footprints. There are footprints of different sorts throughout the journal so far. I think I've got rabbits, cats, frogs, chickens and ducks, or birds rather than chickens, and ducks. And anyway, for this page I'm thinking that I might like to do a little corner tuck pocket thing with a doily. I'm also trying to use stuff only out of the scrap box that I have beside me, which I have collected from the process of making this journal. So I'm trying not to use new stuff, just stuff that I've got, and then my bag of scrap papers, which this blue paper came from. So obviously the doily wasn't strong enough to use as a pocket. I needed to back it with something, and I like this blue. It kind of goes with Peter Rabbit blue, I guess. Anyway, so I have drawn an outline of the doily, slightly larger, and now I have torn it out. And then I am going to quickly ink that torn edge of it. It's quite a grungy journal. I wanted it to be really grungy and like a journal that Beatrix Potter might have taken out into the garden and on her walks with her, so it is quite grungy. And then I decided the doily was way too white for me, so once I decided it fitted all okay there, I needed to add some stamping to it with brown ink. I think I am using Close to Cocoa, which is a Stampin' Up colour, and just a crackle stamp all over that doily to make it much less white. And now it is time to glue that doily down. So my favourite way to glue doilies is to put glue stick in the middle solid circle, and then use my glue with the fine tip to just go around the edges and the more lacy bits. It's the easiest, least messy way to glue doilies, in my opinion. Okay, and then we can stick that down onto the blue scrapbook paper. I'm trying to line up where all the curves are and that sort of thing, and make sure the glue is in the right spot. And then make sure it's all stuck down properly, because I don't want any bits catching on anything. And then trim off the excess. And then I decided that it was still too flimsy for me to use as a pocket. And it needed something else. So I went back into my scrap bag of papers, and I found this one, which I really love, but I just wanted to use that center circle bit to add another layer to the back of this pocket. So I tore it away from the rest of the beautiful paper, and then positioned it on that other piece, trimmed it off, and then I didn't really need all of what was left on the back of it, so I just kind of drew a line so I could cut some of the excess off, because I really just needed to make the top edge of that pocket stronger for when I'm slipping things in and out. That was my thinking anyway. I don't know if I really needed to do this or not, but this is what I did. And then I had to glue the doily down a little bit more because there were bits that were not quite glued down, obviously. And then I just put a liner glue around the edge of that scrap piece, and then a liner glue around the top edge of the doily. That was the easiest way. I could have measured it all and blah blah blah, but that was the easiest way. Stuck that down, and then inked around the edges, obviously made it more grungy. And then I think I was happy with the structure of it and decided I could glue it down. So just gluing those two edges and sticking it down onto the page. Not right up against that edge, that centre fold. I realise it's the opposite way or place that you would usually put a corner pocket, but I like to I like to do things a little bit differently, and I'm not sure how that's going to affect the journal when I sew the signature in. It'll probably make it way too thick in the middle, but anyway, we will find out. Now I am going to add some a flower to the centre of that doily. So these flowers that I make, I have sprinkled throughout the journal, and it's basically just a whole lot of flower shapes from various different papers, all different colours, random, and they were papers that I wouldn't use typically and colours I wouldn't pick typically, and they probably seem like they don't go together at all because they don't, but I turn them into flowers, and I actually really like how they usually turn out. So I pick a few different shapes that I like and colours that kind of work out for me, and then what I do is I take my crackle stamp and either black or brown ink, and in this case I'm using brown. It says that it is the distress ink, but it's not. I've put a different ink refill in there, and I'm pretty sure it's close to cocoa. Anyway, ink the edges, stamp the crackle stamp all over those different flower shapes, and then I layer them up. So I pick different, each flower that I make is totally different. So in this case, I've used 3 layers and then a centerpiece, but sometimes I use 4 or 5 different layers. It just depends on how I feel on the day. So anyway, I've inked all those up, stamped them, and now I am going to glue them together. I just glue in the center. I don't glue them all down completely, and I kind of try and wiggle them around to get the best flower shape I can from the different layers that I've chosen. And then the little centerpiece just to finish it off. Make sure that it's kind of what I want, and then glue it down. Just like that. And then I'm using some homemade stickles, I guess you call them. I don't know, but it's glitter anyway. It's glitter glue stuff. So I put that in the center as well, and this is gold, the one I'm using. Then I decided, I thought I'd end the video there. It was supposed to be a short, but then I decided I had this beautiful paper scrap left over and I wanted to do something with it, and I obviously needed something to stick in that pocket, so I decided I would make a journaling tag thing with it. So I inked up that torn edge and then started inking all around the outside of the paper, but realized I was probably going to trim it maybe, so stopped that. And then I chose a page from a little Beatrix Potter book that I have. It was one that I thrifted. I really liked the first image that I had, and then I saw this image on the back and I liked that too, so I had to decide which one I wanted to use more. But the single bunny, I think it's Benjamin Bunny, was the one that did it for me, so that's the one I decided to use. And now I'm just kind of figuring out how I want it to fit onto that piece of scrapbook paper. Then obviously the white was too white, so again I took my crackle stamp and the brown ink and stamped all around to grunge it up a bit and make it not so, I don't know, make it a bit more cohesive, I guess. Stamped all over, probably stamped in places I didn't need to stamp, but anyway, I did. And then I put some glue around the edge of that torn piece and glued it down onto the book page. I did actually line it up with some lines that are there on the page, printed on the page, but when I flip it over you'll see it's not very straight. So I don't know how that happened. Or maybe it is straight. It just doesn't look straight to me. Anyway. Then I decided I would make this little flappy bit a pocket on this back side of the page. So I folded that over, smoothed it down, and then obviously this was way too white, so I had to figure out something to do with that. But first I needed to glue down the rest of that book page so it was all firmly in place and not going to get caught on anything. And now I have to figure out something to do with all of this white space that is really not my thing. So I have these couple of sheets of brown paper that I have just stenciled and stamped on. And I'm going to use this piece. And the first thing I'm going to do is tear it down to the size of the journaling card. And then once that's done, I need to make a hole in it where the image is. So I'm just carefully tearing around that image that's underneath. I don't know how else to explain it, but I am checking to see where that image is and then tearing around it, just like you can see in the video. This is basically how I do stuff. I don't measure, I just wing it. So then what I'm left with is a nice little hole right where that image is, and I can get rid of all of that white. So you won't see the mother bunny once the pocket is glued down, that little pocket on the side, but you will see the three little bunnies, child bunnies I guess they are. So I'm just using glue stick because it's all just paper, and gluing that brown paper down onto the back here. And then I figured it was time to glue down this little side pocket tuck thing, but just when I started to, I remembered or realized that I probably wanted a little thumb notch in there so that it was obvious that that was a little pocket, in case I forget to put something in it before once the journal's finished. And then I inked that edge. I was lucky I remembered the thumb notch because I nearly forgot to also ink the edge, and that would have upset me greatly. So I inked the edge, and then it was time to glue that little pocket tuck down. So just a little bit of glue at the top and the bottom, And then I decided it needed just one more little thing before I could call the backside of this journaling spot done. And you could actually write on that, even though that brown paper is printed, you can actually write on it, so it is could be used as a journaling spot. So I took this strip off some card that I had stamped on and edge punched it all the way along. And then I took some of those decorative scissors and used them on the opposite edge of that strip just to give it a little bit more detail. And that's what that turned out like. And then I decided to just glue it down the edge right there. Just kind of finished it off a bit better. I didn't really like how that pocket was kind of floating and it's not quite centered on the page, so it needed something to tie it all in a bit better. And this was the perfect solution, I thought. So that's done, and I'm pretty happy with that side of the page now. I just wanted to round the corners a little bit. This is a really cheap punch that does decorative corners, but it only does fairly thin paper. So I could only do one side of the card with this decorative punch, and then I just used my normal corner rounder for the other corners, as you can see here. And even that struggled a little bit with that corner because it was a bit thick. More inking all around the edge of that back side. And just over the top of that little punched strip. And then I move, oh, that's just showing me figuring out if the pocket would work. And then back to the front, and I inked all around that. And once that was done, I just wanted to add a little something extra to give it a bit more impact. So I tried out a few different die cuts that I have. I really liked that leaf thing, but it wasn't enough on its own, so I had a look for some more stemmy kind of flowery things that I could add and decided on this one. And then I thought a little butterfly might finish it off, so I chose this gold one. Right, now to stick them all down and give them a quick ink. Not too fussy with that, but just a little bit around the edges. Especially this stem, because it is on a paper with a white back to it. White edges anyway. So I used the stencil brush. And then figured out the placement that I wanted and then started gluing. And then I decided this gold butterfly needed something else, so I decided to stamp on it. Inked around the edges first, of course. And then I found a little butterfly stamp that matched the shape and size of that die cut. Used my Stays On ink and stamped the butterfly right in the middle. And I was pretty happy with that and how that turned out. Then I glued it down onto the page. And that is this page or journal card basically done. And this video has taken me all day to record the audio for. So, and it's been very broken up because I've been interrupted 50 million times. So I'm very sorry if that's obvious, but thank you so much for sticking with me throughout it. And I'm really going to try and do more of these process videos so that I can post more regularly, and you get to see kind of how I work and not just the finished product. Anyway, that is this set of 4 pages done. I have one more set in this signature to do, and again, thank you so much for putting up with this broken up audio and everything, and for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.